voting has only just opened here in France. Polling stations opening at 8 o'clock local time. They'll close at 6 p.m. local time in most of the country, but 8 o'clock here in the big cities. So we've got a long day of voting ahead of us. People here in France electing their deputies who will sit in the National Assembly. Just behind me, there are 577 seats in the National Assembly. This is the second round of voting. Like the presidential elections, it's a two-round system. In the first round, 4 deputies won their seats outright. So for the rest of the constituencies, they're having to vote again. And the rules for the second round are pretty simple. It's the person who gets the most amount of votes will win the seat in the National Assembly. We're expecting exit polls almost immediately when polling ends, and then the individual constituencies will announce their results as the night goes on. But as you mentioned, the polls are saying that this is expected to be an unprecedented result for the fledgling party of President Emmanuel Macron. He's expected to pick up one of the biggest majorities France has ever seen in its National Assembly.
So can we say that President Macron is already looking at a sure victory in the second round? If that's the case, what are people saying about this result? Because to be honest, the turnout rate is not quite optimistic in both rounds.
Well, certainly the turnout in the first round, just below 50% of the electorate casting their ballots, is an extremely worrying turnout for party officials within Macron's party Republic En Marche. They've been calling for voters to come out in this second round and cast their ballots. The concern is that if they don't, then Macron's party and his government may struggle to claim a clear mandate for their ambitious platform of reforms. Certainly, this parliamentary election doesn't have the same excitement and fanfare as the presidential elections, and perhaps the fact that the polls have been consistently predicting that this is going to be a landslide victory for Macron means people think it's a done deal and they don't feel that they need to come out and vote. But really, the message from both officials from within Macron's camp and from opposition leaders is come out and vote. As I said, Macron's party really keen to get their voters out so they can claim that they have a strong majority and a strong mandate and a legitimate mandate to carry out their reforms. The opposition parties, well, they're saying we need you to come out and vote because really it's not a good situation to have a president wielding all the power and facing no opposition within the parliament. They say that's a pretty dangerous situation, in fact, because the president here in France has great powers. And of course, the fear is, and certainly what's being talked about a lot in the French media, is if Macron doesn't face a strong opposition within the parliament, then the opposition is going to come here in the streets. France, of course, known for having strong protests, especially within their unions, and the concern is that the opposition, if it doesn't come in the parliament, will spill out onto the streets. Macron certainly predicted to have a strong majority in the parliament, but that does not mean he's going to have an easy ride over the next 5 years.